Rise of the Jacksonians. So we're going to jump back to specific politics now. So the Jacksonian Democrats, they are really going to be the first party that molds and organizes this democratizing impulse in popular culture. So what I mean by that is they're the ones that are going to tap into the hopes and fears of ordinary Americans and basically build the first mass-based party in American history. Now, part of this is only possible because of the change of the extension of democracy to all white males without necessarily holding property and everything. So this new Democratic Party is basically going to be formed between 1824 and 1828. And a lot of it forms around Jackson, as they're oftentimes called, the Jacksonian Democrats. So the thing is, Jackson himself, and this is a lot of pictures of Andrew Jackson because I wanted you to see him over time, because so often people know that image on the far right, but don't think of him when he's younger and he's, in the military leader and everything. So Jackson was really a self-made product of the Southern backcountry. He lacked a formal education. He didn't have like family connections or some sort of inherited wealth that might have helped ease his way in the world. Really, he has to rely on his own wits and, raw courage to carve out a career as a frontier lawyer and planter in Tennessee. Then he had gone on to win, fame, being the military savior of the Battle of New Orleans, but also fame just through his role he played in the entire War of 1812. You have to keep in mind, Andrew Jackson's a really fascinating character, but his strengths and his prejudices, while they are not what modern Americans hold, they were extremely valued by most Americans of this time period, and to him he becomes almost this folk hero. So the thing is, in 1824, Jackson lost the election to Quincy Adams, who is pictured here. This actually ends up being a blessing in disguise because now he's made out to be kind of like the honest tribune of the people whose rightful claim to the presidency had been spurred by, intriguing politicians in Washington. And there's a bit of truth to it because, there's an element of, Clay backed up Quincy Adams to become the next president. And had Clay not done that, would Quincy Adams have really been voted into office, or would it have been Jackson? We'll never really know. Though there's an element of also you have to play politics to become the president. So you can see different arguments here. It also helps Jackson and his followers that Quincy Adams really seems to be almost frozen in the past. He was really uncomfortable with some of the give and take parts of politics, and he didn't like the idea of building a coalition just to support himself. Still, Quincy Adams is going to try to present to Congress and to the American people a very bold vision of an activist federal government that would promote, economic growth, social advancement, and scientific progress. However, Jacksonians would attack him for this because they would charge that, oh, this is an administration first born in corruption, but now Quincy Adams' administration is trying to waste people's money by promoting corruption and greed. And they basically put forward this idea that Quincy Adams was this arrogant aristocrat, that he was contemptuous of the common man, because a lot of his program would have been, like higher tariffs that would have helped out a lot of northern manufacturers. And they're going, oh, it's not going to help out all the American people. It's only helping out the special privileged few. Very little of Quincy Adams' program is going to pass in Congress. And in fact, a lot of his nationalist vision drove his opponents into Jackson's camp. So who exactly is for Jackson and why? Well, let's break it down. Firstly, you've got Southern planters who are now concerned about the whole slavery issue. They're going to jump on Jackson. Then you have Westerners would join in backing up Jackson, partly because they felt like Adams is really going to revive their suspicions of the East. Is the East really going to do what's best for the West Coast? Or not West Coast, but just the West. And then you get the Albany Regency. This is going to be a tightly disciplined state political machine. It was built by Martin Van Buren, a future president of the United States, in New York. He's kind of this like new breed of professional politician. Martin Van Buren and his followers are going to argue that parties are indispensable because a political party is basically going to be an instrument so that you can use popular will of the people against the dominance of the elites. And so really they're going to be the ones that organize the first national campaign that's going to rely extensively on new techniques of like mass mobilization so that they can really rally support for Andrew Jackson against John Adams when it comes to the election of 1828. The Jacksonian Democrats, they put together like schedules of meetings and rallies. A lot of like grassroots committees reach out to all kinds of voters. Politics becomes this like spectacle, torchlight parades through small towns, political barbecues, doling out whiskey and food to farmers in the countryside. The thing is, the election of 1828 really was centered on a lot of personalities when you're looking at Jackson versus Quincy Adams rather than actual issues. Both sides would try to depict the other's candidate as morally unfit to be president. The thing is, Jackson's side is a lot more in tune with public sentiment. For a lot of voters, Quincy Adams starts personifying the discredited elite, whereas Jackson was the voice of the people. I mean, think about his background. A lot of this is also because Adams' centralized government is seen as being like special privileges for the favored few rather than for all the American people. So in 1828, you can see on this political map, Jackson is going to carry the South and the West and also polls about 56% of the popular vote. That being said, Adams is going to run well, but only in like New England and more commercialized areas. Jackson really has ordinary Americans, though, on his side who valued their local independence and felt threatened by outside centers of power that they felt like were beyond their control. They identified a lot more with Andrew Jackson.